few years ago, I finished an exhaustive 4-part video series covering the nearly 6-decade history of Dune. It was an obsessive project for me, and towards the end, it started driving me a little crazy. When the first part of Denis Villeneuve's adaptation came out, I just didn't have the mental energy to make another video. Now, with the second part rapidly approaching, it feels like it's time to revisit the material. But first, I wanted to go back and recap the project's history, this time in a more concise and simplified presentation. It'll offer a more casual alternative to the overwhelmingly thorough approach I took before, plus it'll give me a chance to clean up a few mistakes and update some of the information. At the end, we'll look at everything that's happened since I posted that last video. We'll cover Villeneuve's Dune, and we can talk about some of the possible long-term plans the director has in store for the series. For now, let's keep it simple. This is the concise and updated history of Frank Herbert's Dune. An unparalleled science fiction epic, Dune was author Frank Herbert's grand statement on the human wielding of power in all its forms. Like Tolkien's Middle-earth and his one ring to rule them all, Herbert built a complex world around a simple metaphor. Dune took readers inside an enormous interplanetary society, where various factions plotted and maneuvered to control a valuable spice. The desert planet Arrakis, home to unforgiving climates and giant sandworms, is the only known source of the spice. Nefarious villain Baron Harkonnen is forced to accede control of Arrakis to his enemy Duke Leto Atreides, but the peaceful gesture is soon revealed to be part of a conspiracy to assassinate the Duke. The Duke's son, Paul Atreides, escapes and joins Arrakis' native Fremen, eventually leading a rebellion to avenge his father's death. Paul's mystical powers are awakened by the effects of the spice, he is enthroned as a messiah, and as his campaign for vengeance threatens to topple all of civilization, he is forced to grapple with the fact that no man, no matter how benevolent or semi-omnipotent, can ever escape the vast consequences of absolute power. Following the book's publication in 1965 and its ascent in subsequent years as one of the most popular science fiction novels of its era, the screen rights to Dune were purchased in 1972 by producer Arthur P. Jacobs, best known for his work bringing Planet of the Apes to the screen in 1968. Jacobs spent around a year working on the film, hiring various writers to tackle the difficult process of adapting Herbert's sprawling narrative into a feasible screenplay. David Lean, the man behind Lawrence of Arabia, one of the greatest desert films ever made, and a major influence on Denis Villeneuve's eventual adaptation, was reportedly offered the director's chair, although he apparently expressed little to no interest. The production abruptly collapsed when Jacobs died of a heart attack in 1973. A French consortium bought the rights from Jacobs' estate around 1975, and the film was put into the hands of controversial underground phenomenon Alejandro Jodorowsky, whose colossal ambition for the film resulted in a legendary production, which some have dubbed the greatest film never made. As can be glimpsed in Frank Pavich's marvelous documentary Jodorowsky's Dune, the production amassed detailed storyboards by French comic book artist Moebius and astonishing artwork by illustrator Chris Foss and surrealist master H.R. Giger. Dan O'Bannon, future screenwriter on sci-fi classics like Alien and Total Recall, was going to design the special effects, and the cast was said to have included Orson Welles, Mick Jagger, and Salvador Dali. It's a movie that seems too crazy to have ever been real, but it actually came astonishingly close to happening. Working with European sources, Jodorowsky basically had all of the financing in place, and by some accounts, was ready to start filming. However, because of the sheer size and expense of the film, he could not get the green light without first securing a distribution deal with a major American studio. Otherwise, the film wouldn't reach enough theaters to make its money back. Apparently, Jodorowsky's vision was too weird, grandiose, and perverse to earn support from the American industry. He was never able to clear that final hurdle, and shortly afterward, the film was cancelled. Now that Denis Villeneuve's adaptation has given Dune a much more prominent role in mainstream popular culture, there's been some increased backlash against Jodorowsky's interpretation, which was, somewhat infamously, going to feature copious amounts of nudity, bloodshed, and taboo-breaking set pieces. including one scene that called for 2,000 extras to defecate on camera. A lot of Dune fans today tend to recoil in horror when they hear about things like this. What we have to remember, though, is that Jodorowsky was never a mainstream filmmaker. He was an avant-garde provocateur. Thanks to insane midnight movie masterpieces like El Topo and The Holy Mountain, he'd built up an unusually large and enthusiastic following. And because he arrived at a time when the industry was undergoing massive shifts in taste and perception, thanks to the new Hollywood, which I covered in more detail in my Indiana Jones series, Jodorowsky was allowed an extraordinary opportunity to flirt with mainstream acceptance. Dune was ostensibly going to be a work of mass entertainment, but Jodorowsky clearly had no interest in tailoring his extreme style to accepted commercial sensibilities, nor did he care much about pleasing the book's fans. Entertainment was simply not his first priority. Jodorowsky wanted to shock, provoke, and challenge. That horrified reaction people have when they hear about certain aspects of his Dune? That's exactly what he was going for. Really, the fact that someone like Jodorowsky came so close to making a film of this magnitude is far more shocking than its cancellation. The project, rather than being one of the greatest unmade films of all time, may simply be one of the greatest anomalies in the history of popular movie making.